Welcome, everyone, to Venus in Gemini. I am here with Dani Beinstein,
Hi.
psychological astrologer and writer, who I am so excited to chat with.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
I wanted to start out with I feel like we've just had so many energy shifts,
Mhm.
constant energy shifts that have been
Mhm.
happening. But I know everybody has been looking to this time for a while, for a lot of
Mhm.
different. One thing that comes to mind is human design, them talking about this paradigm shift for such a long time.
Mhm.
Things transferring into Aries.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on it. I think that we expect as human beings when we read astrology like that, like a light switch is going to go on and it's going to be a very clear demarcation before and after. Right. And the thing about energy shifts in astrology is that they take a little bit longer to move through us because they do move through and manifest through us and through our expression. And we are dense, right? Like we are dense beings. And so we have psychological and emotional density. And so it takes a while for the energy to shift. But that being said, there is a significant shift that we are undergoing in the collective away from very strong water and earth into fire and air.
Yeah.
And there are five main outer planets: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Those are the five outer planets. And four of the five this year are shifting into fire and air. Pluto had already shifted from Capricorn, Earth, to Aquarius last year. And so there are undergoing a significant energetic focal point, right? And there's going to be more of a shift into agency, action, instinct, impulse, and less of a focus on process, on, on the concept of intuition, which is we will always need intuition, but that has governed so much of the conversation, trusting your intuition. And fire and air is more of a focus on instinct, action, critical thinking. It's not that intuition isn't there, it's that and feeling isn't there. We've been so focused on feeling. How do people feel about this? What is their emotional experience about this? The lines are going to be a bit more clear as we move through this year
Mm.
in terms of personal responsibility in general, action, limits are going to be clear. And we're already starting to feel that
Hmm.
in the collective.
What I'm kind of hearing from that and how I've been thinking about this is because I think of Aries so much of just action.
Mhm.
And would you perhaps say the action just being more obvious and more at the forefront versus stewing around and how do I feel about this and the analysis of it all and then
Yeah,
processing of the emotions?
Aries is very much like the Nike slogan, just do it. It's not that it's not without thought or strategy at all. And certainly Saturn will temper impulsivity, but it is more
It's
about learn as you go, which
Mhm.
is we've been in this, oh, if I'm just armed with all enough information, then, right? Saturn and Neptune are both newly in Aries, but it's also Uranus moving from Taurus to Gemini, where it'll be much more comfortable. And it's also Jupiter moving into Leo out of Cancer. That's the fastest moving. Jupiter takes about 12 years to go in the zodiac, spends about a year in a sign. And so on June 30th, Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion and growth, will move from Cancer, which is very emotional. It's exalted in Cancer, it's comfortable in Cancer, but into Leo, which is much more creative,
Hmm.
not in a painting, photography kind of creativity, but in life as creation. Because Leo is ruled by the sun, which is how life exists, right? Sun and water, right? So there's just this vital force energy. And in July, four of the five outer planets, all but Saturn, will sit at 4 degrees. So that's
Mm.
also really significant. Four being a building block number, right? Four corners, the idea of, stability. So there is going to be a significant increase in action orientation, and also earth and water are feminine. Fire and air is masculine. So you probably have heard a lot of conversation about how blue collar work is going to be much more lucrative in the coming years as opposed to white collar work, right? There's the fear of AI taking over and white collar work going away. Those are all kind of masculine doing, right? Being able to create with one's hands. That's also feels, it can be earth, but it also feels fire and air. Just this idea that, a few years back, it was like the future is female, which to me is kind of a ludicrous concept. You need the feminine and the masculine. But I think we're going to see a rising up of masculine energy in the collective and maybe more profiling of heroes, classic heroes as we think of them, those that are brave and courageous and walk into the line of fire. I think we're going to see more of that. We've obviously seen war break out. So that would also be. Aries is ruled by Mars, the god of war, right? Neptune, it's like invisible war in some ways.
Thankful for that Saturn energy tempering the impulsivity, because we've certainly had enough impulsivity flying around.
Yeah, I mean, I think that war is as innate to human nature as love, and I think we don't think that. We think somehow we are in a post-historical era, or thought we were in a post-historical era, but I've never bought into that, because human nature and humans are tribal by nature, and resources are limited to certain areas, and war is fought over resources and access to resources. And so I just think that the conversation is going to shift more as time moves on in this direction.
Okay, this is bringing me two questions. One, Uranus. I remember so specifically Uranus going into Taurus. This is one thing I've heard about Uranus, expect the unexpected. And it was a couple years before COVID, right?
Yeah,
I
2019.
remember talking about disruption to systems and land and farming and money. And, we had the cryptocurrency
Yes.
explosion time and
Yes.
many financial changes that are still affecting us today.
And the beauty industry, right? Like a lot of, also Taurian.
So I am really curious because, oh my gosh, I really could never have expected so much of what happened.
Yeah.
Right up until the pandemic was happening, I really didn't believe it was happening. So I know you cannot predict the unexpected, but do you have any imaginings of general concepts of what Uranus and Gemini might look like?
Yeah. Well, there's the conversational piece, right? How we interpret information, how we disseminate information that feels AI related, especially in relation to Pluto and Aquarius, right? But a thing that I've been kind of honing in on and focusing on is, I also think of Gemini as neighborhood. I think because of its association with the third house, which is neighborhood, and proximity and short trips. And so I think that we're going to see interesting development in terms of neighborhood and infrastructure and how we occupy and move through space. And I think there's going to be a lot more of a conversation akin, kind of coming off of Uranus and Taurus, which is land, right? But I think of it more about the humans on the land and how we move through it. So things like YIMBY, NIMBY. There's been a lot of talk in development about mixed use neighborhoods, right? A lot of what people love is being able to walk someplace where people live above shops and live above restaurants and all of that. And there's this more of a neighborhood feel. I think there's going to be interesting developments. Last time Uranus was in Gemini, really set the stage for the explosion of suburbia. So I think we're going to see more exurbia, more suburban developments, but also urban developments. I just think there's going to be more of a conversation. Do people want to live in walkability? Do they want to be able to drive places? What does that look like? I think that's also going to be prevalent over the next 7 years. That's a prediction I have. A lot of people are drawn to Europe because Europe is dense, walkable neighborhoods, but low cap, right? You don't have skyscrapers. I mean, of course, you have, higher buildings in London and all in the financial sector, but a lot of Europe is kind of high density, but low, not highly vertical. And I think we're going to see more of a development of that. We're already seeing it, but I think we're going to see more of that in terms of American infrastructure. Also trains. I think we're going to see, at least here in America, the resurgence of train travel. they're already
Would love.
talking about, right? That all feels Uranus and Gemini. How do we move? How do we take
Mhm.
short trips? So also with all this disruption in air travel, maybe increased disruption in air travel, maybe a change in how we travel through air. But I do think trains, I think driverless cars, is that going to be more of a, so transportation, I think is going to be a big part of the conversation.
Okay, so Uranus and Gemini, another thing that you were saying, the idea about humans, and we are a little bit predictable to an
Mhm.
extent,
Yeah.
historic.
Anthropologically, historically, sociologically.
You grew up in New York, right?
I grew up in Manhattan. Yeah.
Okay, so you grew up in New York City. Everybody's been talking about Love Story and
Yes.
just nostalgia in general. And I'm wondering, first, any thoughts on that having grown up in New York City?
Mhm.
Do you think are all generations at some point as nostalgic as it feels like we are right now? Or do you think there's a reason for that happening? Do you think there's something unique to that moment?
I think there's something really unique. I think all generations, as they age, are nostalgic. I think what's unique about now is young people are nostalgic for a time they never lived. Right? You always had, like, I was born in 80. So, even in the 90s, you had kids who were obsessed with 70s music. That's always been a thing. But there's something specific to this generation. First of all, the last time Saturn was in Aries was 96 to 98, which is the bulk of that love story. So we're also in the Saturn return of it. I have a lot of strong feelings about it because I remember first of all, I was obsessed with George magazine. I owned every single copy of George
Really?
magazine. Yes, because I thought I was going into politics. So I spent my freshman year in DC of college because I thought I was going to go into politics. And George was a big kind of part of that because I thought I'd want to go into Hollywood. And then George came out and I was like, oh, I can kind of have that feeling, but in politics. I had a copy of the Ritz cover of Vanity Fair that she was in with her dog Friday. And I remember I grew up on the Upper East Side when I was younger. And then when I was in my teens, we actually moved to Connecticut for a couple of years and then moved back to the city. And we moved to the Upper West Side. And then my parents ended up moving down to Tribeca. But that was after they had already passed the plane crash. But I remember being like, I got to go down to Bubby's and I got to look for that. I mean, I was really into them. And it's very nostalgic for me because I was such a city kid. I mean, I went to go see theater by myself on the weekends, and I remember it, all the places that they talk about, Indochine, Odeon, Pravda, like those are all places that I frequent. And I remember I was highly influenced by Calvin Klein in the 90s, right? Kate Moss, I was anorexic. Like I was like, how do I be thin like that? That was it, it's so nostalgic. And even like her minimal makeup, but then when she wears that kind of raspberry maroonish lip, I'm like, I remember going and buying that. I remember going to Calvin Klein at the counter and buying the Bloomingdale's. So visually, it's incredibly nostalgic for me. But also, people always ask me, would you move back to New York City? And New York, it's not the city I grew up in at all. And a big part of that is social media. I
Say
used to just
more.
have random conversations with people. Oh, it's different now. I mean, the number of friends that I met just randomly at coffee shops. And I feel like now when I walk down, and I do it too, like people are on their phone walking. And it was a different city pre-social media. First of all, you didn't have these like viral trends. You had Sex and the City, which had a big impact, and especially with Magnolia Bakery, which then ended up blowing up. But it wasn't the same like level of viral trends where you have now like the major lines. That didn't really exist. Not in the way it does now, but also just like the sense of freedom. Unless you were JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette, or you were a celebrity where paparazzi followed you. There were not random cameras places.
Mhm.
And there was I used to call someone and be like, I'll meet you on the corner or I'll meet you here. And you just had to show up.
Gosh, that sounds so romantic.
Yeah. So I think there's a nostalgia for that because our lives were completely different. They just were in every way. And also you had to be home to watch something on TV. So must-see TV, which was a giant deal, right? it was Friends, it was ER. And then you had to be home or it had to be taped. Otherwise you would miss it. So the whole like concept of how you move through the world was different. When you, the magazine stands that they show in the show, that was a big deal. When you passed magazine, or you would wait for Vogue to come out, or you weren't online looking at it. Like you had to go to the newsstand, or it came. Do you get the latest copy of Vogue or Vanity Fair? Or it's a different way that we move through space and time. And so I think younger generations cannot conceive of it. And so there's a nostalgia for that.
A couple of things that are coming to mind words about this are mystery and quest.
Yes.
Sounds like
Like
there was
I
so much
remember.
thing.
Yeah, I was obsessed with Counting Crows. And I remember going to all of these record shops all over the village to look for live bootleg cuts because they're so amazing live. And then I remember when MySpace came out and Napster, and then you could start to get them there. But it was like, yeah, you had to go on a quest for things.
And that sounds fun. I'm wondering.
It was fun. And like if I think about online shopping now, or like Instagram delivering it to me through the algorithm. And it was just different. You would go to I guess people still do vintage shopping, but it was just, there's something about moving through the world without a watchful eye that's really profound that is gone.
There's a part of me that just thinks we won't ever maybe really experience that again in this lifetime to an extent. There's other things we'll experience, I guess, in its place, right? Feels very unique for things to have changed so fast.
And to be fully in my lifetime. I mean, I remember getting a PC. I remember dial-up. Like when the internet first started and it would dial up and it would make this sound. Like I remember that. You remember
and if
that?
Only one person could use it.
Yes.
And then you use the phone.
Yes. But I think about, let's say my parents are the silent generation. Well, my mom's like right on the cusp of she's like the oldest boomer. But my dad's silent generation. And I always think about everything that he witnessed and experienced in his lifetime. It's wild, the arc.
And that feels, would you say, that's one thing I wonder. Do you think it's pretty unique for that to happen? Or I'm like, I wonder if everybody feels that every generation this way.
I think the rate of change is accelerating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we lived for millennia with nothing. Then there was the printing press, 1492. That lasted, think about from 1492 to the invention of the telephone.
Yeah, I guess
like 500 years
now to that.
Yeah. I think it's radically different. And I don't think our biology or brain chemistry, we are not evolving fast enough really to compute it. I mean, we're adaptable. Humans are adaptable. But I think our psychology is being so manipulated in so many ways. And it's really an experiment.
Well, I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? Are we going to have to become half robot? Is that going to be the solution? What is your dream vision? You had a dream vision because things are going to have to go some way. What would you like?
I don't really have a dream vision because I think it's more, I'm not utopian as a human being. I'm not utopian. I don't think that's what this earth plane is for or about. I think we're meant to evolve, but what does that even mean? And I don't have strong Aquarius. Like I'm not a visionary type.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more interested in human nature as essentially a philosophy major. I would say I'm more of a classicist. Like I'm just interested in I do think there is some mathematical truth that exists outside of the human mind, which is which is more of like an Aristotelian or Platonic kind of ideal, more ancient Greek in my philosophy. And I come back to the ancient Greeks in terms of the delicate nuance complexity of fate and free will. So that's kind of my orientation on the world. I'm not interested in trying to arrange the world towards a certain effect. I think it's a futile effort. And I think human nature repeats itself, but also that's just not my soul's orientation in this lifetime. I think we're all players in a Shakespearean play. And like, that's not my role. That's not my archetype.
Okay. I would love to hear more about this. Thoughts on the delicate balance between fate and free will. But I wonder if that dances with, I'm also very curious about how did you get here? Like where you are today? How did you choose?
Who knows? Again, like I am not I don't force my hand at things. I mean, Daniel, my partner, would be like, you're completely controlled. Like design wise, I'm like, no, you don't get a say in design. But in terms of like my life path unfolding in the big picture, I did not choose. I didn't choose this. I wasn't like, I'm going to be an astrologer or I'm going to at all. I thought I was going to be when I was young, I thought I was going to be in Hollywood. Then I thought I was going to be in politics, law. I thought for sure I was going to go to law school. Basically, I created my own major, but it was philosophical in nature. My philosophy professors all said to me, you're a shoo-in for law school. I'm fascinated by the law, specifically constitutional law. I get very emotional about the Constitution, which is probably not the sign of a great lawyer because I revere it so much. I think it's the most exquisite document, one of the most exquisite documents ever written. And I have this love of kind of law in its platonic form. So I thought I was going to do that. And then 25, I moved to LA, kind of was working around Hollywood, got involved with not the healthiest person or in the healthiest dynamic. I wasn't so healthy, came out of that, was like, what am I going to do? Signed up for this master's in spiritual psychology, had been studying astrology on my own since I was 19, came out of that program, was working in ed tech on the side or as a job, educational technology, kind of blending social emotional learning with technological development. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but I kind of fell into it. And then came out of this program, started doing these circles with one of my best friends, and people just started asking for readings. And I just started doing it. Never hired PR, it just evolved. Then I got asked to be on podcasts, and I got asked to be on Lacey Phillips' podcast, who's a friend of mine. And then I don't know, it just took on a life of its own. Had no plan for it. No plan for Nashville, where I currently live for I don't know how long. I knew LA wasn't the place for me. I was there for 15 years, but I really honestly wanted to leave after year one. I don't know how I lasted 15 years. Met my partner, he's Kiwi. We moved to New Zealand during the pandemic. I was like, this is not for me. We moved back and we're like, let's give Nashville a shot. Landed here, bought a house. There's no like strategy to it.
But what I'm hearing is you like astrology enough that you have kept doing it. And you
I
like
love it.
Nashville.
Well, it was like a
that you want-
perfect blending. Well, Nashville, I've been here 4.5 years. I've been doing what I'm doing for full time since 2014. So 12 years. It's a long time. It just is a perfect blend of all my interests or most of my interests. And it feels purposeful and I love it, but I did not go seek it. It came to me, which is maybe why I'm still doing it. Meaning like it wasn't something that I had to break down walls to do. When I started, it was not the cool thing it is now. It was not. And social media hadn't really exploded to the point that it has. So it wasn't something that I set out to do. That's all I can say. And every couple of years, I'm like, should I go back to law school? And then I come back to loving what I do because it's really rich and meaningful and rewarding. And I really love working one-on-one with people. I just really love the depth and the intimacy, especially when I work with people continuously.
I'm thinking of that lawyer on Landman. Have you watched Landman?
Landman's one of my all-time favorite shows.
It's a great show.
Yeah.
But I could kind of see you being that lawyer.
That's so funny you say that because when we watch it, I turn to Daniel and I'll say, I wish I were Angela, but I'm not. This is who I am. I am this person to a T. I have that archetype so deeply in me. I understand her.
Love her. And I love that we're really getting to see some deep character development for her.
So good. So good.
She really turned it out at the end of that season. I was, oh, finally.
Yes. And I said at the start of the season, I said to Daniel, I was like, she's going to have the big arc this year. And she did.
We weren't giving her much to work with for a while.
No.
When is something going to happen for this girl?
He writes women in the most amazing, incredible, and rich way, and such a varied, so many different types of women, from Yellowstone to Landman to Lioness to Madison to even Tulsa King. He's so good.
A lot of aliveness.
Yes. Yeah. So that's funny you say that because don't love that about me, but I'm like that's a deep archetype within me.
I mean, I love it. Who doesn't love her? She's amazing.
She's amazing. She goes into that in the police station. Well, I don't want to give it away to anybody who hasn't watched the second season.
I can really see the fire for politics coming through too, which I think is so
Yeah.
interesting. Can you say a little bit about the Constitution? I don't know
Mm.
much about Constitution. I'm not Constitution expert. I know people have a
I'm
lot of
not an
feelings.
expert. I just think it's a stunning document. And I think that the founding fathers were some of the most brilliant human beings ever to live. And I think the Declaration of Independence, I get emotional about it.
Is it imagining them coming together
I
and
just think this revolutionary period, but to be so rooted and so grounded and to be so aware of human nature. You know, a lot of people don't know that they actually drew a lot of it from the Bible and from Deuteronomy, but their understanding of human nature and the checks and the balances. Although John Adams did say that this only works with a moral constituency. Like you need a moral constituency for it to work. But yeah, I just think it's a stunning, stunning document, which is,
you're
I don't know why not PC to say these days, but
Oh, I
yeah,
think it's totally PC. It's a little odd to me that it's not. That's a whole other story.
yes, but the founding fathers, I will watch anything about them. Just I'm fascinated by American history. I just think it's the most stunning experiment, and it's the 250-year anniversary.
And to what you were saying before of this idea of people thinking that we're past these patterns and things, a lot of that thinking is because of the way the American experiment has gone, right?
Yes. Yes, I think that it's also interesting, right? We're in the Pluto return of the revolution. Pluto in Capricorn was the Pluto return of the Declaration of Independence. We're in the Pluto return of the revolution. We're also in the Neptune return of the Civil War. That's the other thing. Lincoln. I love American history. Like I love it.
I know so little. You're really inspiring me with your passion to dive in and see like what good stuff out there is to watch, because that's always a fun way to take it in, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the John Adams HBO series is great, starring Paul Giamatti. That's a great thing to watch. And do you ever go have you ever been up to Boston?
Yes, I love Boston.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
you can
the
feel
history there. Yeah, you can feel that history.
Philly too,
New
right?
England.
Yes.
Philly. Yes,
Philly.
I've never been to Philly, which is insane.
Well, you would love it.
I know. Liberty Bell. I have to get up to Philly. But yeah, I love it. I love especially like, just think about these people coming here and fighting this revolution, which was about taxation without representation, which I feel like is going to be a major theme in the coming years. There's already all kinds of conversations about abolishing property taxes, right? I just think across the board, taxation is going to be a huge conversation with this Pluto return of the Revolutionary War. But yeah, I don't know. So anyway, I thought most law today is not that. It's
Of course.
transactional
That's
or
awesome.
yeah, but that's what I would have loved to have. I mean, I guess when my grandmother died when she was in her 60s, she was in law school. I think she was in her 60s.
Well, hopefully you have a lot of time left. I could
Yeah.
see you do something with this for sure. And I think we could really use it.
I love it. I just think it wouldn't even be necessarily for work or like a PhD.
And being able to pass that on, even just through your talking and passion about it.
Yeah.
Tell us more about what you're into, Dani. What are you into right now?
What am I into? Well, right now I'm painting my doors. I'm really into, it's so nice to do something like that where you're not on a screen at all, because I spend my day on a screen with clients, which I love, but to just be, it's so meditative. So I love that, and kind of just doing some house projects, and I love my dogs.
How many dogs do you have?
I have 3, but one of our neighbors has 5 dogs, 3 of whom come over all day. Yeah, they just come over and hang out all day. So I posted a video of 6 dogs, us feeding them raw milk, 6 of them. But yeah, because they're here. 1 also sleeps over a lot, but 3 are here all day. 1 is behind me right now.
Did you have these dogs prior to the moves
Mm-mm,
from
mm-mm.
got them all when you moved to Nashville? So had you had pets before that?
I had a little dog when I was little that got, we think, eaten by a coyote, which was very traumatic. And then I didn't know what an animal person I was. I was a baby person. I thought I was going to have 4 kids, and I didn't conceive. And I was like, we need a dog. And then we went, and there were two. They were brother and sister. And I was like, I can't separate them. They're the last two in the little litter, the shelter. And so we took two. And then I blame this on my Neptune transit, where I just like my heart opened to then all. I mean, I was a vegetarian from 11 to 21 because of animal well-being, but I didn't have a lot of experience. I grew up in the city, and I used to ride horses when I was little. But again, it wasn't like I didn't have a bond in that way. I wasn't my mom loves animals, but I just wasn't raised, but it's deep in me. I want to
Mhm.
save and rescue all the animals.
And that's something that you discovered a little bit more over the
In my
past few years?
40s. Yeah.
In your 40s, interesting. You didn't
I
realize
wish
it
I
when
had wish I had known it earlier. My parents
what?
had a dog later. They got a dog when I was in my 20s, Milo, who I loved. My parents moved to Colorado basically full time in my 20s, and they got this dog, and I loved this dog, but it was just kind of lost in my 20s and didn't really think of it, but I should have. It would have anchored me in such a profound way if I had gotten a dog in LA.
I feel like animals can be an underrated form of anchoring relationship. I don't have any
Mm,
yet.
it's
I'm
the
actually
best
going
thing.
to foster a puppy on Sunday.
Can I just tell
It's
you, it
it's
is the
going to be
greatest thing.
old. It's a baby.
We got ours were 7 weeks. Their mom was found in a parking lot and was so traumatized, wouldn't feed them, and they were bottle fed, and we got them at 7 weeks. Animals are just, they're so pure. So yeah, it's totally unexpected. My whole life is that. First of all, I thought I'd be a lawyer living in the West Village or maybe London, 4 kids. I mean, my life looks nothing like what I thought it would be. But that's what's so interesting about life, if you
It is
allow it
so
to be.
and that's the thing, right? The allowing. I'm wondering, how has the experience of the allowing been for you and finding any sense of like joy and contentment, stability within the unexpected and it not being what you thought it would be?
Well, I do think, if I'm really honest with myself, I think I am a little addicted to the unknown.
Mm.
I think that's probably why my life did not turn out the way, because I need routine in whatever I'm living. While I'm living it, I need a sense of routine. That is absolutely true. I need a coffee shop everywhere I've lived around the globe. I found a coffee shop. I go to that coffee shop every morning. I think that there is something about that and routine, but the bigger picture, I've got wanderlust,
Hmm.
and I have a hard time. I think this will be with me forever. I have a hard time like planting somewhere forever. Like, I love it here, and still I'm like, where else could we live? I'm just kind of
And
wired that way.
was that something that you had to sort of realize about yourself and accept and then be like, this is part of me being a happy person?
Yes. I don't know about happy, content, fulfilled. I think my work is very fulfilling. I think my relationships are very fulfilling. These animals are deeply fulfilling. And I think it's been a lot of reckoning. And I think there can be a kind of peace and contentment even in the grief.
Hmm.
But I have a hard time with, for me personally, I have a hard time with things that are expected in classic kind of societal relations, meaning like, I, we're not married. The idea of like a wedding shower, it's not so much the commitment. It's like the wedding shower, baby shower, like that kind of stuff does not interest me. I'm just not wired for it. I don't know why. It's not because I'm like more masculine, although I do connect to my masculine side. Those kinds of expectations. And sometimes I think, if I'm being really honest, oh, part of whatever propelled me and part of the reason I didn't have kids is because that stuff would have been really difficult for me. Like, meaning
Hmm.
it would have been really grounding, but also the classic involvement that's required as a parent. And I don't think that's really fair. My mom opted out of all of it, and it was hard. And I have that in me. She just opted out of all of it. She just didn't participate in any of it. And there are other
Participate in,
ways
like,
to
the
do it, any of it. So I think that I don't really have a model for it, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
And
What did
there's
that
deeper material.
look like for her in that time? The opting out, you know what I mean? Because that would have been even way less common,
Meaning
right?
opting out. I mean, she didn't opt out. She stayed. She didn't abandon us in a literal sense, but my dad did everything.
Mhm. So she was just kind of not doing that classic archetype.
And social, she just wasn't social at all. She was not comfortable around people. She was a big reader, which is probably where I get it from. Yeah, and my dad had the same best friends he'd had since he was 6 or 7 years old. So they were not newly social. They did not engage socially. I'm different than that, like do engage socially, but sometimes I wonder, oh, is that a subconscious? But I didn't conceive.
Mhm.
But I nannied and I was obsessed with babies and small children. And all through high school and college and into my early 30s, I volunteered with Head Start programs and after school programs.
And you do so much guiding in, like
Yes, and I do a lot of guiding for mothers. Like a lot of my clients are mothers of small children. Some are
Mhm.
older, my clients who are older, but that's a big part of my work. So it's not part of it. Who knows, you know? And I know people have all kinds of ideas and why, but who really knows? Like the curious mix of biology and psychology and intergenerational trauma and it's all mixed up in there and there are no easy answers. And
And that
I don't know. You never know, right? I'm in my mid 40s, but you never know until I don't have a uterus.
there's so much I'm hearing about in your life, a theme of just mystery and an enjoyment of mystery and also a inclination toward it, but then finding your ways of grounding. And it sounds like you've been in a relationship for a pretty long time.
9 years.
Partnership. 9
9
years,
years.
yeah.
I also am the third. I'm the third of 4, but I'm the third daughter and I
Well,
have a younger brother. So I do think that plays into it. Meaning I do think birth order has an effect.
tell me more.
Well, I just think like I watched my sisters and I watched their life unfold and I was like, I want pieces of this and pieces. And all 4 of us beat to our own drum. We're all 4 nonconformists who were raised in a pretty conformist world on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. So, but all 4 of us kind of beat to our own drum. But I don't know. There's something about, they say the third is like the most likely to take risks,
That makes sense.
you know? So
My younger brother is the third, and he's always taking crazy risks.
yeah. Yeah. So I think that there's something in that,
Mhm.
you know? Yeah, I
So,
feel like that's part of it.
with someone who is attracted to mystery and sort of shaking things up and taking
Mhm.
risks, how does that play into you maintaining a long-term relationship? How's that work out?
Well, he's totally nonconformist, even way more than I am. Way more than I am. So like, I'm sure that has to do, part of the thing that's challenging is neither of us is anchored anywhere. He's half
Mm,
Kiwi, half American. Part of his family is in New Zealand, part his family's in America. So we dance with that a lot. Whereas I think I could have gone another way, just didn't happen, where I was with someone who was like firmly planted somewhere. And maybe that would have changed things. I don't know how I would have related to that. I don't know if it would have made it harder to stay. I don't
yeah,
know. Or if it anchored. I don't know. That's like a ghost ship of a life, as Cheryl Strayed calls it, right? I don't know. I don't know. But I think that we both have wanderlust. We both are creative people. We move through the world very differently, but like he's way more creative than I am. And he's a way more creative brain than I do. And I'm much more routined and much more scheduled. I just can pick up and move somewhere and then create a new routine.
you can do that.
Yeah.
That's
Very
amazing.
easily. Very easily. I've always done that. Like, but I myself, like, I could pick up and I'm not attached. The only place I thought I was ever attached to was New York City. And so if I'm not attached to New York City, I'm not attached to anywhere. Like that was the deepest place within me. My dad was born and raised in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. His parents were fresh off the boat, Ellis Island, when they were children. I never thought really I would live anywhere else. So once that's thrown out, I don't
So
know.
what keeps you showing up in your relationship? Because I think we're living in interesting times with
Yeah.
relationships. they're less of an assumed part of life
Yes,
than they used.
yes, yes. I probably because I can't figure him out. I mean, I can in some ways, but he's so different from me that it's very like, "What?" And that's very intriguing. Like, it adds a layer of who knows?
I
Who
know.
knows? Who knows? I mean, listen, my parents have been together since they were 19 and 21, so I'm the product of that.
You come from a
Yeah.
lineage where there's long-standing commitment.
Yeah, so I think that's probably and I have, like, friends that people will see on social media, but my best friends, I've had my best friends forever. My and even my newer friends, there's long-standing like, one of my best friends now, our fathers have known each other for 50 years. Not been close, but, like, known each other. So there's that, and then my other newer, very close friend that I've had for 15 years now. No, not 50. Yeah, maybe 15 years, like, our sisters knew each other. Like I just have long-standing relationships in my life.
So
Uh,
that's something that's been kind of, in a way, natural for you?
it's natural, it's modeled. Like I have newer acquaintances and but my friends are like my college best friends and then my friends, even I'm not super close, but I still text happy birthday to my elementary school best friend every single year. Like, and we're
Wow.
loosely in our each other's like that was modeled for me. It's in my life. And I have 3 siblings, which are like baked in friends, and you have
Mm,
to move through difficult, like,
here.
I know during COVID, a lot of people, like, there was a lot of loss of friendship. And even with my oldest friends who we made different choices, no, still.
See, that's something I'm thinking about in this current time too, just longevity in relationships. Because of the way we're setting up, I wonder if it's harder. And like I was writing
Yeah.
to you about this house idea, aunts, uncles, it's like in an absence of an opportunity to learn about things from people who have already done it,
Yeah.
how does that play out? I
I
mean,
think
maybe it
that's
could,
interesting.
but
Yeah, I think that, intergenerational living is coming back. Speaking of Uranus and that also kind of feels like a Uranus and Gemini thing. I'm not even sure why it just does to me, but I think that we are craving that, right? It's like I think about my friends who have kids and who've known me since they were little. And even if I don't live near them as they get older, like I will be someone that they can come to and I've known them and I know their parents. Like there's something that is really special about that, I think. I think
Mhm.
aunts and uncles and all, I think it plays a really big role.
For sure, right? I mean, I think having any adult in your life
Yeah.
that is not your parent that can take an invested interest in you, your parents just, there's so much skin in the game, I think, right? That
Yes.
they can't
Yes.
be biased to
Yes.
teach
Yeah.
you about certain things and give you wisdom about certain things that it's
Like
just too close.
Yeah, like I have so my oldest sister's 10 years older than I am, and my next oldest sister is 7 years older than I am, and their friends have known me because we're all wired that way. We all have friends that we have all have the same friends we've had since we were little. So they've known me since I was 2 years old. That feels significant too, right? They've influenced my life. And now like my oldest sister, her best friend since 7th grade, his daughter goes to Vanderbilt here, and I have a relationship with her. So it's like the cycle continues, which is really beautiful.
And I guess maybe with the Venus and Gem or the Uranus and Gemini bit too, there's perhaps a natural correcting that could be happening.
Yeah, I think I don't have any great wisdom around why I've maintained such long-term friendships. I think it's because it was modeled for me, honestly. I think it was just very clearly modeled. And I will say I made my friends for all of the deepest, truest reasons. And that's why I think they've lasted even through all this political tumult, all this, it's just there's something there that it's like, I love you. I see you. I've known you since we were kids. Like what?
It sounds like there might be something in your karma about that. I don't know. about
Yeah,
deep.
I mean, it's interesting because I went to the same school from the age of 3 to 12. Most of my original crew, they all continued school together. And I'm not close with them, but I am in contact with them still. So I think
Mm,
that set me up. And then again, seeing my sisters, I think also, and this may have a factor. I'm Jewish. I was raised in a pretty Jewish world, and I feel like maybe that is part of it too.
mhm.
Like not
I
all of
do.
my oldest friends are. My oldest, actually, like a bunch of my oldest, well, college are Italian Catholic, which is very kind of similar to
Yeah.
but I think that there's something about that maybe too, like it's a very specific world to grow up in. So
Mhm.
there's just a deep bond that develops in that way.
And being in New York, living around a lot of
Yes.
Jewish people, I definitely noticed that there's a lot of focus on relationships, I think,
Yes.
as
It's a
part of
big part, giant
and
part of the
community.
culture.
And,
Culture
Shabbat.
and religion. Yes, it's just bonds, family bonds and friendship bonds you're just raised from a very young age that's the priority in life is your relationships. I don't know how else to say it. So I think that's probably a big part of it.
That has, I think, so much lately about the how we seem to be becoming less and less religious as
Yeah,
a
I think it's coming
people.
back.
I can kind of see that too. I'm curious to see how it comes back,
Yeah.
but you can feel the absence of it
Yes. Yeah.
because the decline had its reasons too, right? There
Yeah.
was really certain
Yes.
toxicities brewing
Yes.
that came to boiling points.
Yes.
These unifying forces that bring cultures and communities
Yeah.
together.
Yes. And ritual.
Ritual,
Hmm.
exactly, agreed upon ritual.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, I'm very curious to see how that winds up happening.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I predicted with Saturn in Pisces is that we were going to see, especially Saturn, Neptune, we were going to see a return to religion. And I think we are seeing that. Like the numbers are showing that, for example. And it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But yeah, it was taught to me from a very young age that family and friends are everything.
That has me thinking too about the brain. That's one of the very cool
Yeah.
areas of research that I feel like is finally getting its due process is research on the brain.
That feels Uranus and Gemini. You mean like Michael Pollan's consciousness? I'm reading his book. I just started it. Yeah.
All the neuroscience stuff happening and how I found you in many years ago was
Mm.
through TBM.
Yeah.
And that was, people weren't talking about that kind of stuff really
Hmm.
when TBM came out. Now it's everywhere and there's so
Yes.
much and studies to back it up and a lot of investment and technology
Yes.
too. I know you live in Tennessee, right?
Hmm.
Just went and did a neurofeedback retreat at this place, Tennessee Neurofeedback.
Oh,
And I'm like, what a cool
where is that?
it's in Nashville, in Brentwood, and this place is so
Yeah.
cool. I will send it to you when you get off,
Yeah.
but it's just you kind of watch Netflix and it helps train your brain toward, like, what is healthy for your age and gender.
That's
I
wild.
and, putting that together with something like inner child
Yeah.
work,
Totally.
all of the stuff that has been circulating around for these past years and getting more and more popular. I'm like, if you can put them together, because one thing I'm hearing from you is how powerful the modeling was for you and how
Yes.
those neural pathways, we can go and do everything under the sun, and that's always going to be there. And as we learn more about what we could
Yeah.
potentially do with that, I think that's very intriguing and feels very Uranus and Gemini too.
Yes. I think about that a lot for me because I went to a very demanding prep school at the start of 3, and that set me up for discipline and routine and structure and work ethic. There's no question. But also, I watched my dad get up every morning, like 5 somethings, go work out. And he was an entrepreneur, go to his job. And my dad was home anytime that my dad was home for dinner every night too. Like there was something very stabilizing about that part of my early childhood that I feel very blessed with because I think it did set me up for success. Like I'll have people who are kind of new to me say like your work ethic, like it doesn't matter if you're sick, you'll work. And that was drilled into me at a very
Yeah.
young age. And it was modeled for me and it was drilled into me. And I think about that a lot.
Those are strong, strong pathways for
Yeah.
you. And then they continue to develop, right? As you reap positive rewards of it, your brain is
Yes.
like, I want more.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
But I do think, some people are not modeled something like my dad, that piece, the work wasn't really modeled for him in a way, but he had it. So I think some people are born with it, but then some people are more influenced and it's modeled. I don't know. That's the other thing that all four of us have. We have that strong work ethic, and we're the reading, the inquisitive mind. That was a huge, like I was encouraged at the dinner table, like question this, question me, let's have debate, constant debate at the dinner table. So
Like the
those are,
Kennedy.
oh my, I turned to Daniel during that scene and I said, I would have aced this. I would have aced this. Like that. Yes. That's like what that was it. That's what it was like.
The Kennedys, the Gilmores.
Yes. Yes. So I think that it played a vital role. So even though I'm in a kind of unconventional role in a way, I think that, there's a lot of influencers out there who be like, how to work less and make more. I like working. I really like working. I'm strong Virgo Capricorn. I like feeling industrious. I like working. I like feeling productive. I'm not great with a ton of idle time. I mean, I'll read and I'll go to museums and I'll do that, but I really like structure. I really like working. It's not really a goal of mine to not do what I do. I don't know how else to say it. Like that's not a driving force for me to like lay around and drink champagne in the middle of the day. Like I'm not judging it. It's just not, it doesn't interest me.
I think it is cool too how you are seemingly not too much of an advice giver, which we see a lot of in the influencing
No,
culture.
I'm not interested in that because also every person is different. So I just try and what I'll do is I'll share the general energy, but how it affects one person is very different than how it affects another person and very specifically down to like degrees. I'm not interested in advice because what works for me doesn't necessarily work for the next person or the next person. That's not my job, but often I find that advice just comes directly from what worked for that person.
So true. And people just sharing, right? This is what worked for me.
Yes. Like,
could maybe work for you or maybe not.
Yes, exactly. So when I'm sitting with someone, it's much more about taking them in, studying them, looking at their chart, their transits. It's not about me.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, are there any patterns, themes you see in your work around sexuality and intimacy?
Oh, that's interesting.
I ask because I feel we're having a lot of shifts around that these days. One thing, massively declining birth rates.
Yeah.
Another thing, rise of the way we date and meet people and marry or don't marry has changed a lot.
Yes.
Polycule, monogamy or not. The representation of sexuality, explosion of advertising. It has always mostly been sex, right?
Yeah.
Things are mostly with sex. And since we are just selling constantly now, taking that in with our eyes constantly, I feel a lot of expectation.
But it's so sexless. Like when I think about like the 80s or the 90s and I think of the movie stars of the 80s and 90s, they were beautiful, but they were sexy and they were vital and I think about the young stars today and they're almost all sexless to me.
What do you think's going on with that?
I think we are addicted to our phones and screens and we are disembodied. There's a natural biological imperative to mate and procreate. Something is very wrong if that is shut down. Something very vital. Our biological imperative is to procreate. Sexuality is a part of, like perimenopausal women going through menopausal women. That's it. But like prime mating ages, if that is all being directed towards porn or online or not, and you're not, and also I am not advocating alcohol, but people just get like toasted and then make out. And like now I think it's all just like green juices and Pilates. It's like no one's messing up. No, I think that's also why Love Story is affecting the younger gen. They're like, she was like smoking and having sex and like she's vitally alive, right? Like, I think that is, that's how it was.
It also feels like if you're messing up, it feels like the picture of your life and your job becomes messing up, if you know what I mean. That's
the problem. But it's like, No, you have to go through, if you don't go through rites of passage where you make mistakes and you get back up and you push up against the world and it pushes up against you, there's no diamond making.
It's like all of this effort toward perfection, but then that is
But
sapping.
it's anemic. It's bloodless.
And do you think there's an astrological indication of why we have wound up here?
Well, it might be interesting with like the Uranus and Taurus, right? I think of like Taurus as like bodily, full blooded, and like Uranus messing with that. It's also the Pluto and Scorpio generation coming of age. Pluto, the death of Scorpio sex. Maybe there's like a regeneration of it. I don't know. Maybe that's related.
Yeah. I had a friend, she knew you were coming on, and we got into talking about this and these and this, that.
Yeah.
And she was talking about just the beauty industry and how exhausting it is. And it was interesting that you mentioned that alongside Uranus and Taurus.
I do wonder if actual faces are going to and actual bodies are going to come back in vogue, are going to start to come back in vogue. Like if everybody looks the same, if everybody's face looks the same, there are natural markers. Like, for example, some people are attracted to bigger noses. Some people are attracted to curvier bodies, some to, some to super thin bodies, some to big eyes, small eyes, whatever, different faces, different facials. There's all kinds of reasons for that. And if we take that away, we're taking away the mating call. It's like, the study, right? If you're on birth control, it shuts off your pheromones. Maybe that's another reason. Although my generation was on birth control and they were having sex in the back of cabs. Not that I'm advocating for that, but I just think there's something that's, I don't know.
It's one of those mysteries, I suppose, right? And there's so many things we could tie it into. Like, because one thing I am thinking about is the rise of traditional values, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But is there a tie-in to that of this? I don't think it's a bad thing, but
yeah,
it is
I feel
there.
like it's related. I feel like it's related. And how could it not be?
And
but
I know that
think
we're
crafting coming back, like people using their hands, like it feels like a natural kind of evolution of that is also sexual intimacy.
Yes. Creative process of sort, because sexuality, second chakra,
Kundalini energy. Yes, all of that.
So I guess if we could steer people in any direction, there at least is that like being a creative of your own life, whatever that means.
Yes.
Being into true creative force.
Yeah, I think
as
so.
Fostering healthy and authentic sexuality.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I'm running low on time with you. I ask you like 2 more questions. A friend wanted me to ask these 2, but she was
a good friend.
Wondering about the midheaven and the nadir, because she had said she feels like people don't talk about them that much.
So the midheaven, also known as the MC, it's your reputational point. People think of it as career, which it can be, because 10th house, and if you're using Placidus, it opens the 10th house. But people think of it as the career point, but it's more like reputational. Like, how do people who don't know you well and intimately see you? What is the role they see you in? So that's more than MC. Opposite, the nadir or the IC, is I think of that as who we are alone at midnight, 2 in the morning, whatever. Like who is our deepest, most private self.
Gosh, that hits hard because mine is Scorpio, and I'm like, I'm so Scorpio at midnight, sitting there, stewing around in my mysteries.
Yeah. But really, so I think that's how I would describe them.
Okay, that's cool. And then North and South Node. How can you perhaps get closer to your North Node? Do you even want to?
Well, yeah, your North Node are the qualities that you're meant to grow into. And it's contextual depending on the rest of the chart. But for some people, those qualities are going to be challenging and uncomfortable. For some, they're going to be a bit easier to integrate. And the South Node, it's not that we leave those qualities behind. It's that we integrate them. And so it becomes
integration in a healthy way. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
How you make good use of that in your life.
Yes.
And then last one, nurturing your moon in everyday life. How important is that? Does it depend on the person?
Yeah, I mean, your moon is your emotional landscape, right? So some people are more emotional than others. Some are more, we all have different emotional processes. So it's our emotional orientation towards the world. So that's every day, every moment of our life, right? but it's unique to whatever the moon sign, the placement aspects, right? That's going to bring that sense of emotional security.
And depending how emotional of a person you are, I would assume it's going to make itself maybe as obvious as it needs to
Exactly. Yeah. That's a really beautiful way of putting it.
and
Yeah.
call to you about as much as it needs to, probably,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. And it's about listening to that.
Yeah. And then any hot takes to leave us with, Danny? You got any hot takes on
I
this?
think with this Aries energy incoming, I think it's about doing the scary thing, the hard thing, the brave thing, the courageous thing. That's what we're being called into. And it's like Nora Ephron said, be the heroine of your own life. Like, be the hero in your life. Like, it doesn't feel good. It's not healthy for the body to dwell in victim consciousness or woe is me. It's like, what do you have agency over? What can you put forth? How can you be proactive? Whatever small or big ways, lean into that.
Okay, I love that. Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
having me. This was such a lovely, beautiful conversation.
Tell us, where can we find you and what sort of ways can people work with you?
So my Instagram and my website and my Substack. And really it's very simple. It's one-on-one. It's just they can book directly through my website, just like you did. Super easy.
Yes. Had a reading with you. It was wonderful with my
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah. Just so
And then you also do group stuff, right? That's all
I
on the
do group
website.
stuff. Yes. And when I do, it's on. There's nothing scheduled right now, but yes, I do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been so wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me, Sky.
Thank you so much for listening to Venus and Gemini. If this episode resonated, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe or leave a review or share it with someone you love. Until then, see you guys next time.